Alright, so we're in lesson 3. It's lesson 3 actually. This is synthetic division. So, um, in our previous classes, we talked a lot about x-intercepts, solutions, factors. So, these are solutions. These are solutions. Algebraically, I write my solutions like this. Okay? But when it's in factor form, you see the opposites of this. And what we're going to do today is um, divide out a factor to get the other factor. So that means essentially if I had x plus 2 times the quantity of x minus 3, I divided it by x plus 2, I would get x minus 3. So we're using one factor to find another factor. But first, let's go back a little bit to like grade 3 um, elementary, where we were doing long division. So when you do long division, you're looking at the numbers, and you look at this number here. It's called a divisor. This is a divisor, and inside is a dividend. So how many times does 21 go into 67? It goes in 3 times. You bring down a 63 here, right? Negative 63, it becomes negative. 42 comes down. And then how many times does 21 go into 42? Twice. 2 times 21 is 42. So if my remainder is 0, it's perfect. It's a perfect number. It's a perfect number to end up with. It's a perfect quotient. Okay? So here, this is called a divisor. This is a dividend. And this is a quotient. This is the quotient of those two numbers. Now, for the next one, 5 and 72, my divisor is 5, dividend is 72. 5, how many 5s in a 7? 1 times 5, and I get 22. There's 4 minus 20 at the top, and you get 2, a remainder of 2. So we're clear. We're going to identify each of these things. So the dividend is the number inside. The divisor is the number outside. The quotient is the number you get. And the remainder is what's left over in order to get what we need. So how do you do that with binomials and polynomials? Well, you just set yourself up. We got x minus 3. Here we go. Right? And then we have 6x cubed minus 19x squared plus x. I like to put plus 1x plus 6, right? So what I'm going to do is divide the first term by x, and then I'm going to multiply whatever I get on top in the red times x minus 3, okay? So what I mean is divide this first term by x, I get 6x squared, right? And then I'm going to multiply it and get the opposite, change the signs, multiply it and change the signs. So 6 and x squared times x is x cubed. Now 6 times negative 3 is, well, technically, I'm going to change this so I know what I'm doing here. 6 times negative times 3 is 18, positive 18, x squared. And then I combine those terms, right? I get negative 1x squared. And then everything else comes down. I get plus 1x plus 6. And I start the process over again. All right? So I divide by x. I divide this term by x, and I get negative 1x. Now, negative 1x times x is a positive 1x squared. Okay, negative 1x times negative 3 is a positive 3x's. Sorry. Is a negative 3x's. negative 3x's. Okay? End up with negative 2x plus 6. And then divide by x again. Get negative 2. And negative 2 times x is 2x. Negative 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And I get 0 and 0. So this is a perfect result here. So the answer is 6x squared minus 1x squared minus 2. And you're probably confused a little bit. About what just happened if you hadn't done it in Algebra 1. But I tell you what, we're going to use synthetic division instead to solve the same problem. So it says, given that x minus 3 is a factor of the function f of x equals 6 plus 6x cubed minus 19x squared plus x, find the other zeros. So we're in the same situation. We're dividing all of this by x minus 3. Right? So the first thing we do is make sure it's in standard form. I have 6x cubed. My x cubed term goes first. Minus 19x squared. Plus 1x. I like to put variable numbers in front of variables. Plus 6. Right? Now we write the coefficients of the polynomial to the right. If a term is skipped, we write 0. No terms are skipped, so we have 6, negative 19. You have 1, and you have 6. On the outside, we're going to write 3. We're going to reverse the sign of it, so positive 3. This is the factor. We reverse the sign. Okay, so we know what our divisor is. This is our divisor. So it says, let's make sure we did this correctly. Step 3, I did it correctly. So I have 3, 6, negative 19, 1, 6. Okay? Now it says bring down the first coefficient. Multiply that by the divisor and write it under the next. Okay. So I'm going to draw a little line here. I'm going to bring it down. I have 6, right? Multiply that times the divisor. So I am. So 18. Okay. And then do the next one. So we do it again. Okay, I get negative 1. Let me make sure I did that right. So I get 6, negative 1. All right. So 3 times negative 1 is negative 3, and I get negative 2. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, and I get 0 as my last term. So I hope I did not confuse you with what I just did. I did it all in one. So I'm going to go over it again. I'm going to erase what I did, and I'm going to go through the steps. All right? So things I have. I'm following the signs. This is what I have. 3, and then all my other numbers. 6, negative 19, 1, and 6. Right? So it says bring down the first coefficient. So I'm just going to draw a line underneath here and use the space appropriately. I'm going to draw a line. Actually, I'm going to draw a line right here. And I'm going to bring it down. So I have 6. And then it says 6 times 3 is negative 18. No, positive 18. And I get negative 1. Nothing else is going to change. So I have 1 and 6, right? And then, so next step. So I draw my line, do the same thing, going 1 over. Here's 3, right? So 3, so I have 6 and -1, right? -1 times 3 is -3. I get -2 down here, right? -2 times 3 is -6, and I get 0. As long as this last number is 0, then I don't have a remainder. So I can rewrite this using the next to the 1 less degree that I start with. So 1 less degree would be x squared. That means I have 6x squared minus 1x minus 2. And that's my final answer. It's the same answer I got before. So we're going to do this a couple times until we get this down. All right? So let's set up our box. Let's set up our box here. Okay? And let's make sure it's in standard form. So I have an x cubed term, and there's a 1 in front. I have a -1x squared, a x term, and then a number term. So I have a 1, and then 1, -1, -5, -3. Right? So we always bring the first coefficient down first, 1, and then we multiply it times this divisor. This is my divisor. It's in red. 1 times 1 is +1. I get 0. Okay? The next one, 0 times 1 is 0. I get -5, right? -5 times 1 is -5. And I get a remainder of -8. So my final answer here, 1 degree less, is 1x squared plus 0x minus 5, remainder of -8. This is my final answer. Okay? Yeah, it's my final answer. Now, next one. Look at your polynomial. Make sure it's in standard form. It's not. I have 1x cubed. There's no x squared term, so plus 0 times x squared minus 3x plus 2. Now, this is standard form. And now I can set it up. I have -1 as my divisor out here, and then I have 1, 0, -3, 2, right? And then the first step is to bring down that 1. 1 times -1 is -1. I get, oh, I know what happened. The last one we got to go back, guys. I made a big mistake. Big mistake. We're gonna do these over. We're gonna do these over. Big mistake. And you let me. And you let me. That's okay. Because we can fix it. Remember, we do the opposite of this number. So -1, 1, -1, -5, -3. Okay? So first step, bring down your number, 1. -1 times 1 is -1. I get -2 here. -2 times -1 is +2. I get -3. -3 times -1 is +3. And I get 0. So there actually is no remainder. And then the answer is x squared minus 2x minus 3. And I know you're extremely happy that I went back and did it over. I'm a little bit sick, so I'm sorry if my voice sounds scratchy. Next one, I have a remainder, I have a divisor of +1, so +1, right? And then I bring my numbers down, 1, 0, -3, 2. So first step, always bring that first number down. It's 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. I get -2. -2 times 1 is -2. And I get a remainder of 0. So my final answer is x squared plus x minus 2. Okay? So if this is a root and the remainder has to be 0. So basically, when you're using synthetic division to determine if the given number is a solution or 0, if the remainder is 0, it is a root. It does cross the x-axis at that point. So, what does that mean? Well, let's go ahead and do these problems. So it says use synthetic division to determine if the given number is a solution or a 0. So it's already in the form that it needs to be. We don't need to change the sign. Do not change the sign. Do not change signs. But here we will. When it has x minus a number or x plus a number, you do change signs. Okay? So we got to set this up, and we have -3, and we make sure everything else is in standard form. I have 1, 1, -11, -5, +30. The first thing I'm going to do is bring down the first number. I have 1. 1 times -3 is -3. I get -2 coming down. -2 times -3 is +6. -11 plus 6 is -5. -5 times -3 is +15. That gives me 10. 10 times -3 is -30, and I get a remainder of 0. So this is a root. So yes, -3 is a root. And your result, the result of this is x cubed minus 2x squared minus 5x plus 10 with no remainder. Final answer. Okay, so I think we're kind of in a good place here. So we're going to change the sign of this to get the root. So we have our factor, change the sign to get the root. Then we put our numbers down, make sure it's in standard form. So we have a x to the 4th, x cubed term, x squared, x to the 1, and then my number term. So I write it out: 2, -3, -5, 3, and 8. First thing I do, bring down that first number, and then multiply times the root. So 2 times 2 is 4. -3 plus 4 is +1. 1 times 2 is 3. 3 times 2, that -5 plus 3 is -2. -2 times 2 is -4. 3 minus 4 is -1. -1 times 2 is -2, and I have a remainder. I have a remainder of 6 this time. This is my remainder. There is no 0 at the end. So when I write this out, I have the answer is 2x cubed plus 1x squared minus 2x minus 1 remainder of +6. And that's my final answer. Okay? Moving on, number 5. Here they give you the roots. They're not giving you factors, so they stay as is. So I have 2, remainder, see 3, and we're going to put in, let's write this out. Let's rewrite this: 3x cubed. We need an x squared term, so plus 0 times x squared minus 6x plus 2. So when they skip a term, you have to put it in with a 0. So 3, 0, -6, and 2. 3, 0, -6, and 2. Okay? That means the 3 comes down. 2 times 3 is 6. 0 plus 6 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. So there's a big remainder here. All right, so my final answer, 3x squared plus 6x plus 6 remainder of 14. Number 6 you're going to do for homework. So number 6 is homework. Okay. Number 7 is homework as well. So keep in mind that the root stays as is. Now, number 8, it says find the first zero of x squared minus 6x plus 63. Then use this information to divide and then to factor the polynomial into linear factors. So basically, the first zero is going to be, if I go to my graphing calculator, keep in mind you're going to do number 9 on your own. So I go to my TI-84 here. Find the first zero that I see by putting this equation into the graphing calculator, right? So I have, go to y equals, clear out what's in there, x squared minus 16x plus 63, and press trace so I can just kind of see it. And it looks like I have positive zeros. So second table, I'm going to go down, find those positive zeros. The first one that I see is 7, and actually 9 is a 0, but I'll keep that in mind. The first 0 that I see is 7. So I'm going to divide a 7 out of this polynomial, and I have 1, negative 16, and 63. So I'm going to do it right now. So here we go. 1, negative 16, and 63. Sorry, I wrote that incorrectly, guys. So 7, block 1, negative 16, and 63. So the first thing I do, bring down that 1, and then I have 1 times 7 is 7. I get negative 9 times 7. Negative 9 times 7 is negative 63. And I get 0. So my final answer here is x minus 9 is a factor. This is a factor, but x equals 9 is a 0. So I have two zeros. I have x equals 9 and x equals 7. And my factor form will be x minus 9 times x minus 7. So basically, the thing I want you to do for number 9 is to get the solutions. And get the factor form of this equation. All right? Use your graphing calculator. Just scroll up or down until you find the first 0, and you're done. Okay? So you had a couple problems. You're going to do number 6, number 7, and number 9, 10, and 11 for homework. 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11 for homework. Please, please, please keep in mind. Oh, and number 12. So number 12, you're finding two different factors here. So that means you're going to find the solutions. Good luck. We will go over this the next class. Please watch the video again if you're stuck. Have a great day, guys. I'm sorry.